just want to do a little more analysis, right? So, this incident is not an isolated incident. Let's put it that way. Whew. There are many, many examples of sexual predators utilizing marijuana to rape. So technically, Hatchet Kai was the victim as well as the villain. Simultaneously, both. Isn't that weird? He chose to smoke marijuana. You could argue because he wasn't educated about the risks, but there's a possibility he was. There's a possibility he had DARE programs in school, etc. And he said, no, I'm going to listen to the people that I want to listen to who tell me what I want to hear, that cannabis is harmless, instead of the people who are telling the truth about cannabis, that it's harmful. Sorry, I'm doing tobacco. I almost had to spit, but I don't want to spit on my floor. At least on camera. Anyway, the reason I'm doing tobacco is because they're going to legalize marijuana, and somehow the tobacco is sort of countering it, but it's combined with other things that I do, other techniques that I use with applied neuroscience. I don't want to do the tobacco. It runs a heavy risk of mouth cancer, etc. But it does seem to help counter the secondhand smoke somewhat. Anyway, so it's actually so common that sexual predators use marijuana to induce a cognitively compromised state for rape that it is marijuana has surpassed alcohol as the number one date rape drug. Now, that's interesting in itself because you would think these big tech companies like YouTube and Facebook, and not just the mainstream ones, Instagram, etc., but also the quote-unquote alt websites like BitChute, Gab, Rumble, Bryon, Odyssey, etc., would be like, okay, you know, the left, or whatever you want to call it, is pro-marijuana, and pro-pornography. These mainstream websites are flooded with drug propaganda, marijuana propaganda, as well as pornography propaganda, and this is clearly causing an increase in rapes, suicides, homicides, etc. We will counter it. They're not. These websites are flooded with that. But a weird thing I've noticed is, you see, I was aware that social media companies were utilizing psychology to psyop the masses. I was first aware of that in 2014, when Facebook was releasing psych articles about how they employed neuroscientists and psychologists to not just make their product more addictive, but more effective in psychological manipulation. Oh yeah, it's changed. So last week, when you Googled the role of marijuana in sexual assault, I didn't Google it completely. I just Googled the role of marijuana. Tobacco seems to be fucking with my head, excuse my language. The role of marijuana in sexual assault. There it is. I can't download the PDF. We cannot provide a description for this page right now, interestingly enough. Yeah, you can't really see it. But Google it yourself. Since 2019, between, I think it was 2015 and 2019, I'm getting distracted here on a couple different topics. Marijuana was the equal with alcohol. The most common date rape occurrences were the combination of marijuana and alcohol. Then marijuana surpassed alcohol to the point, and you can read this yourself. You can Google specifically the role of marijuana in sexual assaults. The cannabis industry, the people who run all these websites, the hierarchy of leadership, right, the top, the Illuminati, whatever, they are deliberately using their money to socially engineer people through social media and Google and search engine results, etc. So they are suppressing these results and changing these results. I have screenshots documenting the changes, the manipulation of the algorithm, etc. over the years. Let's go on that. So yeah, I first became aware of that in 2014. I saw it in real time in, I think it was 2019, with Reddit inciting political and racial violence against Trump, against white people, etc. Well, recently, I've got an alt on YouTube. I know in 2023, anyone who's honest gets punished for telling the truth in the form of weaponized censorship. That's weird because all these websites have drugs, porn, and demographic like agendas as well as LGBT agendas pushed. And so if you oppose any of those, you get censored. But those things are causing severe harms, immigration, etc. Especially marijuana. Marijuana is not the only thing, of course, but excuse me. We'll just focus on marijuana. So on my YouTube alt, I began to run what I call counter propaganda or counter degeneracy. And so what I do is provide information that in the Roman Stoic terms is tactica adversa or direct opposition. So there's a lot of pro-cannabis propaganda that floods YouTube and Facebook and etc. All the aforementioned websites. There's not a single one that's a social media site that doesn't have pro-marijuana stuff, including Gab. Christians, right? Anyway, they're giving me suggestions for cannabis videos from 8 months ago. And that's really strange because that happened on my main YouTube accounts as well. But there's cannabis videos every day. I think my IP address and my accounts have all been flagged as anti-cannabis. So they're specifically hiding these results from me so I can't counter their propaganda on the first day. And they're giving me videos that nobody's watching because they watched them 8 months ago. They're already memory hold way back in the timeline. It's very subversive. It's very deceptive. I find that very interesting that we are so saturated with deception as a society that with Hatchet Kai, for example, people self-deceive and are so easily deceived and deceive others about the simple fact that his whole thing was cannabis-induced psychosis from start to finish. I guarantee it led to his homelessness, it led to the first homicide, it led to the second homicide, it led to the suicide and self-harm, etc. So, marijuana has surpassed alcohol as the #1 date rape drug. The role of marijuana in sexual assault. You'll have to Google it because this phone doesn't let me open PDF files anyway. Underage girls prostituting themselves for marijuana. If you Google that, you will see that this was prostituting for marijuana. You will see this was documented in Denver in, I think, 2014. Underage, yep, September 5th, 2014. First result, underage girls are apparently trading sex for marijuana in Colorado. Reports saying teen girls are posting ads with phrases like 420 friendly to trade sex for pot. Snoop sued by underage girls who appeared in Girls Gone Wild video. And yet somehow he is elevated by the social media engineer manipulators, right? The social engineers, the architects of cool, as a hero, just like Mike Tyson. Same thing. Rape, marijuana, black. It's like a fucking bingo. Anyway, and then you get all the other results. Man gave underage girls cannabis in London Park and then groomed them. If you Google cannabis pedophilia, you'll get news after news after news of this exact thing. You could argue that Hatchet Kai's incident was pseudo-pedophilia because the man was 73 and Hatchet Kai was, what, 20-something? Right? 29, I think. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. This is insane to me because you would think that these, as many as 10 girls run away sexually assaulted at marijuana farm. Yeah. So you would think that, these people who own YouTube and BitChute and all the websites would say, wait a minute, this is clearly happening. We should oppose cannabis legalization, cannabis industry expansion, cannabis activism, cannabis advocacy, etc., to reduce rapes, including the rapes of minors, because this is clearly increasing with the cannabis industry as a direct result of the cannabis industry. But they're not. Why is that? It's Very strange, isn't it? And the media profits off of these incidents. They don't flood your feed with headlines about everything I'm saying, even though it's true. This is proof that the truth doesn't matter in the courts. It hasn't for a very long time. If the truth mattered in courts, Hatchet Kai would have been at least given the option of cannabis-induced psychosis as the homicide defense. He wasn't. You know why? Because New Jersey is run by money, not morality. And that lawyer, I think he was Jewish. I could be wrong. And I'm not saying all Jews are like this. This isn't meant to be anti-Semitic. But odds are that Jewish lawyer was really rich and had circulated in a lot of stuff with income for Jersey. So the city was clearly on his side. Galfly, ethnic origin. Now you could say it doesn't matter if he's Jewish or not, but this seems to be a very interesting dynamic. This isn't really giving me any quick results. Let's see. Because Gelfi sounds Northern European, so likely Ashkenazi. Yep. Nope. 2/5 of Ashkenazi Jews. Yeah, it's kind of saying Jewish, but not really. Anyway. This isn't about ethnicity or religion, which clearly he wasn't religiously Jewish because he was homosexual, but... or should I say a practicing homosexual? Anyway. This is fucking insane to me. That this is even happening. Now, you could argue that because it was an act of pseudo-pedophilia, and there is a direct link between homosexuality and pedophilia, this is constantly reaffirmed every time they attempt to disprove it scientifically. The ratio is disproportionately overrepresented on same-sex versus opposite-sex sex offenses. I'd imagine that could be changing because all these white female teachers are sleeping with black male students. Hence demographics, that's also related to the decline in literacy rates, graduation rates, etc. Marijuana, immigration, demographics, LGBTQ. Like I said, all these are corrosive elements to the United States. But the death of white America isn't death of America, it's transformation of America. So these globalists are transforming America. COVID's in there too. They don't care about the lives they destroy. They only care about the end goal. Holy fucking shit. Let's just look up some more examples of cannabis used for rape of children. And while I'm talking about that, cannabis pedophilia. There are other examples of the truth about cannabis being suppressed in courts, specifically with mass killers or mass shooters. Kind of different, kind of the same. And you click on news because it gives you all these articles about neurals. Common cannabis use disorder, common among marijuana users. Oh, weird. It's not giving me, there it is. It's giving me new results that are manipulating the algorithm. The results have changed. But jail for man who supplied teen with cannabis and had sex with her. How the normalization of pedophilia continues to grow came up with this thing. Cannabis-caused erectile dysfunction? What? Best strains. And all this stuff about pro-marijuana advertising, essentially. Which is weird, because I have multiple screenshots of... for example, there was a guy in San Diego, a big cannabis entrepreneur. He was, I think, an ex-politician, like the ex-mayor or something, busted for huge child porn. And more than that, there's countless examples of this that apparently Google is suppressing because I'm talking about it. Fucking wild that just speaking the truth can force Google to work hard to suppress it. Insane, eh? Anyway, when Robert Bowers committed a mass shooting at the synagogue in Philadelphia, he was under the influence of cannabis. Now, there was two components with his incident. One was cannabis and the other was media, social media. He was a Gab user. Gab is notorious for inciting violence against everybody. Blacks, gays, immigrants, etc. But so is Facebook, only it's notorious for inciting violence against whites, straights, Christians, Trump supporters, etc. So it's weird that one is okay and then one is, not okay. There's no objectivity there. It's a bias. Weaponized judicial system, not just weaponized censorship against specific demographics on the basis of race, gender, political affiliation, etc. Religion. But he got the death penalty. Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab, had to take the stand with all this stuff multiple times. Darrell Brooks in Waukesha, Wisconsin, killed almost the same amount of people. Same thing. He smoked marijuana and was incited to hate white Christian Trump supporters by companies like Google and Meta and Microsoft, etc. I don't think Darrell Brooks had a Gab account or a BitChute account or any of the alt sites. I guarantee he had all the mainstream stuff. He had an Instagram, he had a Facebook, he probably had a Snapchat where he dealt the weed, and he actually also fucked underage girls. He got one pregnant. That's part of his criminal history. But the Bail Project released him. He wouldn't have committed the mass murder if it wasn't for criminal justice reform in the name of racial equality, social justice, etc. And that's still being pushed despite the dead people. Darrell Brooks wasn't federally charged with a hate crime or federally charged at all. He was charged by the state of Wisconsin, not the federal government. He did not receive the death penalty. Given that cannabis was the causal component, the primary causal component, as well as media as a secondary component for both of these mass murders, and they were both hate crimes on the basis of religion, political affiliation, and ethnicity or race. Why is it that when the white guy kills the Jews in a cannabis-induced psychosis, he gets the death penalty, but when the black guy kills whites in the exact same circumstances, he doesn't? Nor does he get the federal charges, etc. That's inequality. That is a selective implementation of justice. And why is it that neither one of those cases, nor the Hatchet-Kaya case, nor any of the other cannabis-induced psychosis incidents, like the girl who murdered her parents there, what was her name? Cassie Bjorgi, something like that, admitted to smoking marijuana when she killed her grandparents, and then before, like the month or two at least before she killed her grandparents, and the 7 days that they partied with friends smoking weed with the bodies rotting upstairs. Why aren't the media reporting, or social media for that matter, that cannabis was involved in all these incidents? That cannabis caused all these incidents? Because cannabis is a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry. So the greed of the corrupt elite bankers who control YouTube and etc., including the alt sites, they care more about money than they do about preventing rapes, homicides, suicides, sexual assaults, that's rape, sorry, robberies, non-homicidal assaulting, etc. All caused by cannabis. It's pretty fucked up. I think this is a thing that's gone through history, through cycles throughout history many times, where the greed of the wealthy elites At least that's my perspective on it. From their perspective, I'd imagine it's eugenics to reduce the population. But their greed and corruption becomes so fucked up that from a religious perspective, God is the only one that can help you, because the poor are powerless to protect themselves from these rich and powerful elites and the agenda that they are implementing, the agendas they're implementing. This is one of the agendas. Marijuana is a key part of it. It is a smaller part of a larger plan. And I think they watch my videos. Maybe I have a target on my back. Maybe they're considering me for, recruitment. If so. But either way, it seems like divine intervention is the only thing at this point that can protect the peasantry from the monarchy. May the hand of God protect us with the form of a black plague, or God, what are the other things throughout history that have divine intervention? I can't even think of any. Probably because the rich write history.